If there are ancient structures that modern humanity still cannot explain how they were built, then tell me, are we facing the limits of history or secrets we are not yet ready to understand? Across barren deserts, deep within jungles, or hidden beneath the earth, massive constructions still stand, defying time, logic, and everything we once believed to be true. No one truly knows exactly how they were built, or why ancient civilizations possessed such astonishing levels of engineering. There are places where modern science falls silent, where every stone, every carving holds questions yet to be answered. And perhaps the greatest mystery is not what we can see, but what still lies buried, waiting to be discovered. Stonehenge in the United Kingdom is a stone circle built about 5,000 years ago, where massive blocks still stand in an open grassland like a permanent ancient marker. Archaeological studies show this place once served as a burial ground, dating to around 3,000 years before Christ, proving it was a major ritual center, not just a simple stone structure. Some blue stones weighing about 4 tons were moved more than 150 miles a distance, like traveling between major cities. So how did prehistoric people achieve this task? According to experts, they likely used wooden rollers, rope, and large coordinated groups to pull the stones step by step. For centuries, local residents believed the stones had healing power and even scraped small pieces to take home, reflecting a folk tradition that lasted through many generations. The monument aligns with the sun during the summer solstice, with only slight error showing that advanced astronomical knowledge was applied more than 5,000 years ago. Without walls or roofs, the stones rise about 13 feet high in a landscape that has remained largely untouched for 5,000 years, creating a powerful symbol that outlived entire empires. Why has Easter Island of Chile become one of the most mysterious places on Earth? Because it preserves more than 900 Moai statues carved from volcanic stone between 1200 and 1500, creating an isolated monumental complex in the vast Pacific Ocean. When Europeans arrived in the 18th century, Many statues were overturned during internal conflicts, a real historical event that reshaped both the social structure and the visible landscape of the island. Some statues weigh over 70 tons, equal to about 40 modern sport utility vehicles placed together. So how did prehistoric communities move such massive stones without wheels or metal tools? Practical experiments suggest the statues could be moved using ropes and a rocking motion based on leverage, a simple but effective method for transporting them across rough volcanic ground. As you stand within the island, spanning about 63 square miles, you see stone faces rising more than 13 feet above dark basalt terrain, forming a powerful and unusual visual experience. In 1995, UNESCO officially recognized the Moai complex as a World Heritage Site, placing it among the most protected and culturally significant monuments on the planet. In Indonesia, Borobudur stands as a massive Buddhist temple built from volcanic stone during the 8th and 9th centuries, where its giant mandala design turns spiritual philosophy into a structure people can physically walk through. In 1991, Borobudur was recognized as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO after a major restoration project removed and reassembled thousands of stone blocks to preserve the monument. The area receives about 75 inches of rain each year and rests on soft volcanic soil, forcing ancient builders to strengthen foundations and design careful drainage to prevent collapse. More than 2,600 relief panels line the corridors, and if placed in one row, they would extend about 3 miles, nearly the length of a large modern avenue. Hundreds of carved drainage channels cut directly into the stone allow the monument to survive centuries of heavy rain without severe erosion. Walking along the grey stone terraces, covered with thin moss, you feel the open space and repeating pattern of more than 500 Buddha statues, where local families still bring flowers and incense for worship. In the Anatolian plateau of Turkey, Hattusa served as the capital of the Hittite Empire during the 14th and 13th centuries BC, becoming a major political center of the ancient Near East. More than 30,000 clay tablets were discovered here, recording laws and the peace treaty signed with Egypt in 1259 BC, considered one of the earliest surviving international agreements. The defensive walls stretch about 5 miles and surround hundreds of acres, showing a level of urban planning and large-scale organization comparable to many modern cities. In the 12th century BC, the city declined and was abandoned, raising questions about the political and environmental changes that reshaped regional power in only a few generations. Stone gates carved with lions and warriors still stand across dry ground and low grassland, creating a raw landscape filled with visible traces of an ancient capital. Today, many people in Turkey view the Hittite era as part of their national roots, making Hattusa not only an archaeological site, but also a symbol of cultural identity. Dun Angasa is one of the most impressive ancient stone forts in Europe, standing on the edge of steep cliffs facing the Atlantic Ocean in Ireland. This structure was built about 2,000 years ago, during the Iron Age, and is considered one of the most important prehistoric sites in Ireland. The fort has a strange semicircular design, where the side facing the sea opens toward a deep drop that acts like a natural stone wall. In front of the entrance lies a dense field of sharp stones that many researchers compare to a massive ancient defensive barrier. The entire fort sits on cliffs about 3,000 feet high, raising questions about how ancient builders moved heavy stones to such a dangerous place. Archaeological excavations have revealed remains of houses, fire pits, and several phases of expansion, suggesting this place may once have been an ancient ceremonial or power center. Ancient city of Ani is one of the most astonishing places in West Asia, looking like a giant stone city abandoned in the middle of a vast steppe landscape. In the 10th century, this city once had around 100,000 residents, a level of urban population rarely seen in the medieval world. Massive stone walls and carefully built arches show construction skills that were far more advanced than what many civilizations of the same era could achieve. The defensive wall system stretches for nearly 2 miles and was built from red volcanic stone, forming a massive natural fortress along the edge of the plateau. Even today, scientists still debate how ancient builders created such enormous structures with such remarkable precision. In China, the Terracotta Army within the mausoleum complex of Qinshi Huang is considered one of the most shocking archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, where a clay army was created to guard the first emperor after death. In 1974, farmers digging a well accidentally uncovered broken pottery fragments, starting the largest excavation in Chinese archaeological history and transforming global understanding of the Qin dynasty. Each statue stands about 6 feet tall, close to the height of an average modern adult, and no two faces are exactly the same, showing clear individual craftsmanship. The figures were buried in large pits, arranged in clear battle formation, and many bronze weapons were still found nearby, proving this was a full military structure rather than a simple symbol. More than 8,000 warrior statues have been excavated, a number equal to the size of a modern military division, creating the impression of a carefully organized ancient force. When visiting this site, everyone asks why an emperor ordered hundreds of thousands of workers for many years to build a clay army for the afterlife, and whether that scale reflects fear or endless ambition beyond death. Hegra, in Saudi Arabia, stands in the desert, where more than 110 rock tombs were carved directly into massive sandstone formations, forming a rare, ancient stone city. Many tomb facades rise about 70 feet high, with columns and carved decorations shaped directly into the stone, rather than assembled from separate blocks. Walking among the isolated rock formations, visitors can clearly observe straight cutting lines and smooth surfaces created by ancient stone carving tools. Archaeological studies suggest that many monuments here were constructed over roughly 100 years showing that the carving project lasted across several generations. Careful observation reveals column steps and geometric carvings precisely aligned on the sandstone surfaces, demonstrating advanced stone carving planning. On several tomb facades, ancient inscriptions recording the names of the buried families and burial rules can still be read after more than 2,000 years. Imagine stepping into Waitomo glowworm caves in New Zealand and entering a vast underground dome glowing like an ancient star-filled sky. Inside this limestone cave system formed about 30 million years ago, the huge chambers rise nearly 50 feet high, resembling the vaulted ceiling of a giant stone cathedral. Thousands of glowing creatures hang from the rock ceiling like ancient lights, making the entire cave look like a mysterious astronomical hall built by an unknown civilization. In 1887, early explorers floated on a small raft along the underground river and were stunned when the cave ceiling suddenly shone like a sky full of stars. Massive limestone stalactites slowly grew for thousands of years, forming pillars that resemble the columns of a colossal temple shaped patiently by nature. Even today, scientists still study why so many glowing creatures gather here, creating a rare biological phenomenon that looks like a galaxy hidden beneath the Earth. Off the coast of Italy lies Moai underwater ruins, where the remains of an ancient Roman city now rest beneath the sea like a submerged archaeological museum. Swimming through the site, divers can move along old stone streets and observe the foundations of Roman villas resting directly on the seabed. Many structures now lie at depths of about 15 to 30 feet, allowing archaeologists and divers to study the ruins directly underwater. Mosaic floors with geometric patterns remain visible even after nearly 2,000 years, demonstrating the durability of Roman construction techniques. Stone walls, architectural columns, and building foundations still preserve clear layouts, helping researchers understand how the ancient city was once organized. Archaeologists have discovered ancient villas containing thermal bathrooms and stone pools, indicating the area once served as a luxury retreat for wealthy Romans. On the high plateau of the Andes in Peru, Sacsayhuaman was built in the 15th century under Pachacuti and became a major military and ceremonial symbol of the Inca Empire. Three zigzag walls stretch about 1,300 feet, equal to more than 4 soccer fields in a row, forming a layered defensive system with an impressive and powerful scale. The monument stands at about 12,000 feet above sea level, meaning the cutting and fitting of massive stones happened in difficult mountain conditions that required strong organization and disciplined collective labor. In the 16th century, fierce battles took place here when Spanish forces arrived, and many smaller stones were later removed, yet the largest blocks remained because they were too massive to move. Grey stone walls curve across the open plateau, surrounded by dry grassland, creating a raw landscape where vast natural space contrasts sharply with heavy engineered masonry. Today, the Inti Raymi festival is reenacted with thousands of participants, turning the stone complex into a living cultural space where modern communities continue to preserve Inca memory. In Mexico, Teotihuacan was once a vast ancient metropolis with a population exceeding 100,000 people in the 5th century, ranking among the largest cities in the world at that time. The Pyramid of the Sun rises about 200 feet high, equal to a building of more than 20 floors, showing strong labor organization nearly 2,000 years ago. The urban area covers more than 8 square miles, and its main axis tilts about 15 degrees from true north, proving deliberate astronomical planning. Residential compounds were built in stone clusters around central courtyards, reflecting an organized community structure within a wide open plateau landscape. The name Teotihuacan means the place where gods were born, a title given by the Aztec centuries after the city had already been abandoned. The city declined in the 7th century after housing tens of thousands of residents, leaving the lasting question of why such a powerful center disappeared without recorded founders. Have you ever seen coffins suspended directly on a cliff face? That is the bow-hanging coffins in China, a burial system more than 1,000 years old, where the Bow people turned natural rock walls into a cemetery in the air. Many coffins were placed over 300 feet high, equal to a building of more than 30 floors. So how did ancient people lift wooden boxes weighing hundreds of pounds without machines? Geological studies show limestone cliffs ranging from about 160 to over 650 feet provided natural ledges and cavities, making it technically possible to secure the coffins in stable positions. The coffins were carved from single tree trunks about 6 feet long, proving advanced woodworking skills and careful preparation for a burial custom that rejected underground graves. For centuries, local residents have passed down stories that ancestors used ropes and wooden stakes to raise the coffins, preserving oral memory alongside modern archaeological theories. Without decorative architecture, only dark wooden boxes cling to pale stone walls within a raw limestone valley, creating a stark and enduring landscape that challenges time itself. Why was Sigiri a rock fortress in Sri Lanka, built on top of a massive rock rising alone above the forest? Because the summit was transformed into a royal fortress that was extremely difficult to reach from the ground. As visitors climb the stone steps attached to the steep cliff, they gradually reach the ruins of a palace complex built on a summit plateau covering about 4 acres. From a distance, the giant rock rises sharply from the surrounding plains, like a massive stone column standing above a wide ocean of forest. Ancient wall paintings created about 1,500 years ago still remain on the rock surface, showing that the site once functioned as a center of royal art and authority. Narrow stairways and pathways fixed along the cliff make the ascent feel like slowly entering an ancient city suspended high above the land. Standing on the summit and looking across miles of forest, the fortress appears like an ancient city placed on top of the sky, where history and nature share the same stone foundation. Across the Egyptian desert stands the Great Sphinx, carved directly from natural limestone bedrock, leaving many visitors wondering who created such a monumental figure. Approaching the monument, people observe a human face connected to a lion body, forming one continuous stone sculpture marked by ancient carving traces. Archaeological studies indicate the monument was created around 4,500 years ago, showing that large-scale stone projects already existed in ancient Egypt. Walking around the sculpture, visitors notice the long stone body stretching low across the desert's surface, giving the impression of a massive rock resting quietly on the sand. Researchers estimate the entire statue weighs more than 20,000 tons, an amount of stone that forms one of the largest single rock sculptures ever created. For centuries, desert sand covered most of the body, and when excavations removed the layers, the giant stone figure appeared again, like a monument rising from beneath the desert. Have you ever heard of Loughcrew cairns in Ireland, where enormous stone tombs stand on hilltops like prehistoric fortresses, watching over a vast surrounding landscape? Massive stones were arranged to form a narrow passage leading into a central chamber, like a giant stone tunnel carefully fitted together without any metal tools. Some stones weigh about 4 tons, roughly the weight of a small truck, yet they were still hauled up the hill and placed tightly together with remarkable precision. The monument was built around 5,000 years ago, making it older than many Egyptian pyramids, and leading many scientists to see it as an early chapter of European megalithic architecture. When archaeologists reopened the ancient burial chamber, they discovered cremated remains and stones carved with spiral patterns that resemble mysterious maps of the sky. Even today, Lofgru Cairns continues to puzzle scientists because prehistoric people managed to create a structure as complex as a massive stone observatory. Baalbek in Lebanon has long amazed archaeologists because the entire temple foundation was assembled from enormous stone blocks far beyond the normal construction scale of the ancient world. Some foundation stones measure about 65 feet long and weigh nearly 900 tons, making them among the heaviest building blocks ever used by humans. Walking across the ancient steps, visitors feel as if they are entering a giant stone plaza where rows of massive columns rise from the platform. Moving along the foundation, people can see that the stones fit together almost perfectly, with barely visible gaps, raising questions about how ancient builders positioned them so precisely. Wide stone corridors allow visitors to observe the entire structure stretching across the platform, creating the impression of a stone city from the ancient world. At the edge of the platform, a stone weighing more than 1,600 tons still remains partly buried, like the unfinished trace of an enormous project prepared long ago. Newgrange in Ireland is an ancient stone monument that gives visitors the feeling of stepping through a doorway into more than 5,200 years of human history. Prehistoric builders transported and arranged enormous stones to create a mound containing nearly 200,000 tons of earth and rock, even without metal tools or machines. Walking along the narrow stone passage, visitors feel as if they are moving deeper into an ancient structure assembled from massive slabs that have remained stable for thousands of years. Stones along a passage about 60 feet long fit tightly together without mortar, while the interior space has remained dry for more than 5 millennia. From a distance, the monument appears like a grassy hill, yet closer inspection reveals ancient spiral carvings that make the place resemble a historical record carved into stone. Across the open Irish landscape, the prehistoric mound still stands quietly after thousands of years, creating the feeling that a fragment of ancient time has been left behind. Arrive at Aramumuru in Peru, where a massive stone doorway carved into a cliff still leaves archaeologists debating its true purpose. The front of the structure rises more than 20 feet high and was carved directly into a natural rock face, creating the image of an ancient sealed door. What shocks visitors most is that the structure looks like the complete facade of a ritual temple, yet there is no chamber or passage behind it. The central stone niche stands about 6.5 feet tall, leading many theories that a sacred object once activated the mysterious portal. When the site was rediscovered in the late 20th century, this strange rock monument quickly became one of the most debated ancient mysteries in South America. Derinkuyu underground city in Turkey dates back at least to the 1st millennium BC and was expanded over centuries to respond to prolonged periods of warfare. The entire structure reaches about 200 feet deep, equal to a 20-story building, and could shelter around 20,000 people with livestock and stored food. The city was rediscovered in 1963 when a family accidentally broke a wall in their home and uncovered a hidden passage, shocking archaeologists. Massive round stone doors weighing hundreds of pounds could be rolled into place, turning the whole underground network into a protected defensive fortress. A ventilation system of tall, vertical shafts extending dozens of feet allowed air to circulate even to the lowest levels of the city. A community of tens of thousands living entirely underground, with wells, storage rooms, and shared spaces, shows an extraordinary level of social organization and survival planning. On the remote plateau of Manpupuna rock formations in northern Russia, 7 enormous stone pillars rise like mysterious monuments left behind by an unknown past. The stone pillars reach about 140 feet in height, roughly the size of a building with more than 10 floors, which once led many explorers to believe they were ancient ruins. The strange shapes of the pillars, with curved bodies and wide tops, caused many researchers to question whether they might actually be gigantic stone statues. Geological studies later revealed that the area was once part of an ancient mountain range that slowly eroded over about 200 million years, leaving only the hardest rock pillars standing. What makes Manpupuna so astonishing is that the 7 pillars stand alone on an open plateau, creating the impression of a massive stone monument plaza from a lost civilization. Even today, although science has explained part of their geological origin, the giant statue-like shapes of these pillars still leave many questions about the distant past unanswered. Angel's Landing in the United States makes people wonder why a natural rock ridge can look like the remains of a lost engineering monument, when its narrow edge, sharp vertical walls, and perfectly suspended stone mass seem almost impossible to believe. This rock formation rises about 1,500 feet above the canyon, turning a spine of red sandstone into a giant stone platform hanging in open space. The tilted rock faces and long, straight lines are not mysterious tool marks, but the frozen traces of ancient sand dunes that hardened into stone and preserved the movement of a vanished desert. Holding on to metal chains along the thin ridge path makes the place feel like a gateway that tests human nerves, where every step stands between awe and fear. The trail, completed in 1926, transformed this once unreachable rock mass into a legendary climbing route, where every step carries the feeling of a real discovery. Angel's Landing leaves a powerful impression because the more people learn about its geological origin and the history of its trail, the more it resembles a lost monument created by nature itself. In the desert of northwestern Saudi Arabia, the ancient region of Al-Ula raises a powerful question about who carved massive sandstone cliffs into eternal monuments with such skill. More than 110 rock tombs were cut directly into sandstone cliffs hundreds of feet high, with detailed facades so precise that researchers still debate how ancient builders achieved this level of engineering. These facades do not follow a single local style, but combine symbols from several ancient civilizations, creating a rare architectural language preserved in the desert landscape. Long lines of ancient inscriptions carved across the cliffs record stories of merchants, pilgrims, and burial traditions, turning the entire valley into a stone archive of early history. During one archaeological survey, researchers documented more than 15,400 inscriptions and rock carvings, a discovery that forced scholars to rethink ancient trade networks across the Arabian Peninsula. From monumental tomb facades to mysterious inscriptions, Al-Ula stands like a vast stone library of the ancient world, where each new discovery changes how humanity understands the past. Cocora Valley is a high mountain valley in central Colombia and is considered one of the strangest and most iconic natural landscapes in the country. Many tree trunks here rise to nearly 200 feet and stand thin like giant towers reaching straight into the sky, making the landscape look like an enormous ancient city. In this place, the giant palm trees grow far apart and form shapes that resemble huge ancient pillars arranged in patterns that are difficult to explain. Even today, scientists still cannot fully explain why a tropical palm species can survive on the Andes Mountains at elevations higher than 8,000 feet. Some researchers believe that without the geological uplift of the Andes Mountains, this extraordinary wax palm ecosystem might never have existed. The valley has become a national natural symbol and often appears in travel images used to represent Colombia. Yonaguni Monument beneath the sea near Japan is a massive rock formation about 300 feet long and nearly 80 feet tall, forming clear step levels across the ocean floor. Sandstone layers in the area fractured along straight natural lines, which produce edges that form nearly right-angled corners resembling large stone walls. When divers descend into the site, they often notice stone steps, about 10 feet wide, arranged in successive levels, like a giant staircase underwater. Some flat rock surfaces stretch for more than 60 feet, creating broad platforms that appear like large stone foundations stacked in layers. The underwater structure was first recorded in 1986, when a diver identified large steps and extensive rock surfaces on the sea floor. From an overhead view beneath the water, the entire formation appears as a vast step structure resting steadily across the seabed. In the deserts of Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood for more than 4,500 years as a massive geometric structure that challenges human limits. In 2017, scientists using muon scanning technology discovered a large hidden void inside the structure, proving that even after 4 millennia, it still keeps major secrets. The monument was built from about 2,300,000 stone blocks, with a total weight of over 6 million tons, equal to nearly 10 Empire State Buildings combined. Its 4 sides align closely with the 4 main compass directions, with only minutes of error raising questions about how ancient builders achieved such precise measurements. Ancient markings that record the names of worker teams show that organized laborers with proper food supplies built it rather than the slave labor many people once believed. Across the wide desert landscape, many local families for generations have earned their living from visitors and see the pyramid as a lasting national symbol. Angkor Wat in Cambodia was built in the early 12th century under King Suryavarman II as a powerful stone statement of the Khmer Empire at its peak. The entire complex covers more than 400 acres, equal to about 300 football fields, making it the largest religious monument still standing in the world. In 1992, Angkor Wat was recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, marking a major international preservation effort after decades of war and instability. Five central towers represent Mount Meru in Hindu mythology, turning the structure into a symbolic model of the universe linked to royal authority and sacred belief. A surrounding moat, nearly 650 feet wide, creates a sacred boundary while also helping stabilize the foundation on soft alluvial soil. After the 13th century, the temple gradually shifted to Buddhism, yet continued to be preserved, showing cultural adaptation instead of the destruction of earlier traditions. In Utah, United States Corona Arch rises as a natural sandstone arch about 140 feet high and more than 105 feet wide, formed over roughly 180 million years of geological change. Formed from Navajo sandstone, the curved structure remains standing because erosion removed softer rock below, raising the question of what forces have kept this massive stone balanced for millions of years. The arch is about as tall as the main body of the Statue of Liberty, helping visitors clearly understand the true scale of the stone formation in the open plateau. Against red rock ground and scattered stone slabs, Corona Arch stands out as a rare geological structure that has endured through immense spans of natural time. On the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, Uxmal stands as a limestone Maya city that reached its height between the 7th and 10th centuries, where refined architecture and a dry environment created a remarkable archaeological legacy. Why could a large city like Uxmal survive in a place without major natural rivers? According to research, residents built large rainwater reservoirs to control supply year-round and support daily life and ceremonies. The entire complex covers nearly 1 square mile, equal to more than 300 soccer fields. Yet much of the ancient city still remains buried beneath soil and low vegetation. In 1996, Uxmal was named a World Heritage Site by UNESCO, confirming that its puke architecture, with thousands of carefully fitted stone pieces, represents a rare construction skill. Without major rivers in the region, inhabitants depended on engineered rainwater storage systems, proving their ability to manage limited resources in a demanding environment. Walking across the wide stone plaza, you clearly hear your footsteps echo on the hard surface and sense the open space around you, where ancient structures rise among low shrubs in raw silence. Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan was built around 2500 BC, nearly 2,000 years before Rome, and its urban layout still remains clearly visible today. Its streets, about 30 feet wide, followed a grid plan that separated traffic and housing areas, showing planning logic similar to many modern cities. A covered underground drainage network stretching for miles proves that people 4,000 years ago already understood organized urban sanitation and precise engineering systems. Around 40,000 residents once lived here, similar to a small modern town, yet no huge palace or royal tomb has ever been discovered. There are no giant statues or towering monuments, only vast brick remains across open plains. So why has this quiet ancient city sparked debate for over 100 years? What makes Tikal in Guatemala a symbol of power in the ancient Maya world? Its population once exceeded 100,000 people, and its massive temples stood for more than 1,000 years. The site extends across more than 6 square miles, with plazas and building groups aligned along clear axes, revealing careful urban planning. The tallest temple reaches about 230 feet and was built from local limestone, showing large-scale labor organization over 1,200 years ago. Artificial reservoirs discovered within the complex prove that residents understood water management needed to sustain a dense city in rainforest conditions. In 1979, Tikal was listed as a World Heritage Site, confirming its global historical importance. After its decline in the 9th century, the forest gradually covered the structures for centuries, leaving generations unaware of the vast ancient city beside them. Kailasa Temple in India was built in the 8th century under the Rashtrakuta dynasty as a single stone monument expressing royal authority and deep religious devotion. The temple rises about 100 feet high, equal to a 10-story building, yet it was carved entirely from one massive rock instead of assembled block by block. More than 200,000 tons of rock were removed, a weight comparable to several modern warships, raising the question of how 8th century tools achieved such precision. Thousands of carved panels depict scenes from the Ramayana and Mahabharata, creating a vast stone narrative that records mythological history in detailed relief. Life-sized elephant sculptures, pillars, and corridors were shaped directly from the original rock, giving the impression that a mountain was carefully released from its outer shell. Recognized by UNESCO in 1983, the temple is acknowledged as one of the largest monolithic architectural achievements ever created. In the Bolivian highlands, there is a place called Pumapunku, where many people wonder who created the giant stone blocks scattered across land, rising about 12,500 feet above sea level. Standing among the ruins, visitors see stone blocks weighing nearly 130 tons resting apart on the ground, like parts of a structure that was never fully assembled. Archaeological studies show that many stones at Pumapunku were shaped with a precision of about 1 to 2 millimeters, which is extremely rare in ancient stone construction. Walking through the site, people notice many blocks shaped like the letter H, placed beside each other like giant pieces from an ancient architectural plan. Wide stone foundations stretch for hundreds of feet, making the entire area resemble the base of a massive structure that once stood there long ago. Across the vast plateau, huge stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons remain tilted on the ground like fragments of an ancient construction that was never reassembled. What has made the Plain of Jars in Laos become a strange archaeological field where thousands of giant stone jars appear across a plateau like traces of a vanished civilization? Walking among the jar clusters, visitors can approach stone containers rising nearly 10 feet high and about 6 feet wide, large enough for an adult person to stand inside. Archaeologists have documented more than 2,100 jars scattered across the plateau, creating a prehistoric landscape that looks almost like a massive stone complex across open land. Many jars were carved from single blocks of stone, weighing several tons, and their surfaces still preserve marks left by ancient stone cutting tools. Some jars were discovered together with human bones, ceramic vessels, and ornaments suggesting that the area once served as a large ritual burial ground. Even after many international excavations across several decades, researchers still cannot fully explain how ancient people transported these multi-ton stones onto the plateau. Have you ever wondered why, in the ancient land of Cambodia, stands Banteay Srey, a small temple whose stone surfaces appear covered with carvings like a vast outdoor sculpture gallery? The reason lies in the extremely refined stone carving techniques of ancient Khmer craftsmen, because almost every wall doorway and stone frame is densely covered with decorative relief patterns. The temple was built around the year 967, meaning it has existed for more than 1,000 years, and many small carvings remain sharply preserved. Researchers recorded that several decorative patterns measure only about 1 inch, yet they are deeply carved into red sandstone, showing extremely precise stone carving skills. Moving along the stone corridors, people often feel as if they are walking through massive sculptures where nearly every wall surface carries layers of carved patterns. The longer one observes the temple, the more the entire structure resembles a giant stone jewel, where almost every inch of surface holds careful carvings preserved through centuries. In the desert of Sudan stands the pyramids of Meroe, a royal cemetery containing more than 200 pyramids built by the ancient Kush civilization. These pyramids were constructed over nearly 650 years, from about 300 BC to 350 AD, showing a long-lasting center of royal authority. Most pyramids rise between 20 and 100 feet, and their sides incline at about 70 degrees, giving them a narrow and steep appearance. Walking through rows of pyramids across the desert sand allows visitors to observe the stone blocks and the steep triangular structures created more than 2,000 years ago. Beneath each pyramid, archaeologists found burial chambers about 10 to 20 feet below ground, where coffins and royal objects were once placed. Across the entire cemetery, more than 40 pyramids were built for queens, a rare number that shows women held major power in the Kush kingdom. High on sandstone cliffs in the United States stands Mesa Verde Cliff Dwellings, where an ancient community built stone homes deep inside natural rock alcoves along the canyon walls. From the base of the cliff, visitors can see stacked stone rooms rising inside the alcove, forming the appearance of a suspended village attached directly to the rock face. Archaeological studies show that the settlement includes more than 600 ancient structures used for living storage and communal activities by early residents. Builders shaped sandstone blocks and earth mortar to construct thick walls, allowing the dwellings to survive for centuries within the dry plateau environment. Some residential complexes contain more than 150 rooms, indicating that large groups of families once lived together within the same cliff settlement. Several dwellings sit far back inside wide cliff alcoves, making the entire settlement almost invisible when viewed from the top of the surrounding plateau. Across Mexico stands the Aztec pyramids, a vast complex of stepped stone temples rising from the landscape like massive mountains shaped by human builders centuries ago. Approaching the layered stone terraces, visitors often wonder how Aztec builders created the long, steep stairways climbing all the way to the temple's summit. Some pyramids reach almost 200 feet tall, roughly similar to a modern structure of about 15 to 20 floors. Archaeological studies show that many pyramids were constructed around the years 1400 to 1500, during the strongest period of the Aztec Empire. Massive stones, weighing several tons, were carefully stacked into wide terraces, forming the giant stepped structures that have survived for many centuries. Looking along the long stairways rising toward the summit, it becomes easy to imagine ceremonial processions once moving across those ancient stone paths. In Peru, Machu Picchu was built around 1450 at nearly 8,000 feet above sea level as an isolated stone center in the Andes that has endured for over 500 years. The site contains more than 200 stone structures, including ceremonial and residential areas, showing that it functioned as a carefully planned urban settlement. Without wheels or large draft animals, the Inca transported multi-ton stones across steep terrain using human labor and an organized stone road system. In 1983, Machu Picchu was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO, confirming the global value of this ancient mountain city. Many buildings were aligned with astronomical positions, and certain windows matched the sun during specific times of the year, reflecting advanced observation skills. Tiwanaku in Bolivia was once the center of a powerful civilization between 500 and 1000, leaving behind a stone city covering more than 1 square mile across the Andean plateau. Some stone blocks weigh over 100 tons, equal to more than 60 modern cars, placed side by side. So, how did this ancient society transport and fit them without iron or wheels? The raised field system once covered hundreds of acres, allowing water control and stable food production at about 12,500 feet, proving they mastered harsh highland conditions to support tens of thousands of people. When Europeans reached the region in the 16th century, Tiwanaku had already been abandoned, yet local communities continued traditional rituals and regarded it as a sacred place. The central area equals nearly 600 soccer fields in size, demonstrating that it was a planned urban complex rather than scattered ruins. In 2000, UNESCO recognized Tiwanaku as a World Heritage Site, officially confirming its global importance as one of the great ancient civilizations of the Andes.
As pedras gigantes de Asca são um conjunto de enormes rochas esculpidas espalhadas pela região de Asca, no Japão, criadas há cerca de 1.400 anos durante a formação inicial do Estado japonês. Essas pedras são famosas por seu tamanho gigantesco e pelas formas cuidadosamente esculpidas. Mas o verdadeiro propósito dessas estruturas ainda permanece desconhecido para historiadores e arqueólogos. Um enorme bloco de pedra aqui pesa quase 800 toneladas e se estende por cerca de 11 metros de comprimento, aproximadamente do tamanho de uma grande casa de pedra talhada em granito sólido. A pedra também possui 2 buracos quadrados com cerca de 1 metro de profundidade, que parecem bases para grandes colunas arquitetônicas. Porém, nenhuma construção completa foi encontrada. Como nenhum registro antigo explica por que essas pedras foram construídas, as pedras gigantes de Asca continuam despertando debates sobre rituais astronômicos antigos, planos de tumbas reais ou um enorme projeto de construção que nunca foi concluído.
On the island of Malta in the Mediterranean Sea, the megalithic temple complex of Hagar Kim was built around 3600 BC, nearly 1,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Giza. When you place your hand on a stone weighing over 40,000 pounds, equal to 4 adult African elephants, one clear question appears: how did they lift it? According to research, prehistoric builders likely used wooden rollers, stone levers, and coordinated human labor to move and raise the block step by step. The connected semicircular chambers arranged around a central axis show this was an organized ritual space, not an ordinary settlement. The monument stands on bare limestone ground beside open sea space, with no modern buildings nearby, preserving a raw and isolated prehistoric setting. In 1992, UNESCO recognized the site as a World Heritage Site, confirming the global importance of this small island society and its advanced building skills. Studies in local tradition record that sunlight passes through the entrance during the summer solstice, suggesting ancient people carefully tracked celestial cycles thousands of years ago. In Turkey, Göbekli Tepe is a stone complex more than 11,000 years old, built around 9,600 BC and recognized as one of the earliest ritual monuments of humanity. The archaeological discovery in 1994 forced scholars to reconsider the idea that agriculture came before religion, because this site suggests organized ritual activity may have appeared earlier than settled farming communities. Some T-shaped pillars rise about 16 feet and weigh up to 33,000 pounds, yet they were erected without wheels or metal tools, raising questions about prehistoric organization and engineering skills. Its age is roughly 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, creating a time gap large enough to reshape how historians understand the beginnings of sacred architecture and belief systems. The circular stone enclosures are arranged symmetrically around two central pillars and surrounded by carvings of lions, foxes, snakes, and birds, forming a ceremonial space within an open plain. Deep in the tropical rainforest of southern Mexico, Palenque stands as a Maya stone city covered by jungle for more than 1,000 years, where ancient architecture and wild nature remain in constant tension. In 1987, Palenque was recognized as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO, placing this ancient city among the most important historical monuments in the world. A stone water channel system was built to manage more than 6 feet of yearly rainfall, proving that without advanced planning, the entire city would have been destroyed by erosion centuries ago. In 1952, a royal tomb was discovered inside a pyramid about 75 feet tall, a finding that reshaped global understanding of Maya civilization. Light-colored limestone structures rise from thick jungle growth, with moss covering steps and walls, creating a raw landscape where human history and untouched forest exist side by side. A city that once held tens of thousands of people disappeared into the jungle for centuries before being recorded in the 19th century, raising questions about how easily human memory can fade beneath nature. On the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, Chichen Itza rose as a stone city that flourished for nearly 700 years, uniting architecture, astronomy, and political power into one organized system. The central pyramid contains 365 steps and 9 terraces on each side, matching the solar calendar and revealing precise astronomical knowledge. The archaeological zone covers more than 5 square miles, with plazas, temples, and ceremonial buildings arranged in clear order across flat limestone ground. Local limestone blocks were fitted so tightly that even a thin blade can hardly pass between them, achieved without iron tools or wheeled transport. When you stand inside the ball court, about 500 feet long, and clap your hands, the sound echoes clearly along the stone walls. In 2007, the site was named one of the new 7 wonders of the world, confirming its lasting global importance. On a hill about 2,900 feet high in Indonesia, the site of Gunung Padang appears as a vast stone complex where thousands of basalt columns cover the slopes. Surveys indicate the archaeological area spreads across about 15 acres, forming one of the largest ancient stone complexes documented in this region. The entire complex is arranged into 5 large terraces, where each level forms a broad stone platform built from stacked basalt columns. Moving across the upper levels, many polygonal columns rest beside each other, like long stone beams, creating flat surfaces across the hilltop terraces. Researchers explain that these basalt columns formed when ancient lava cooled and later were arranged by early communities into several layers of stone foundations. Beneath the visible basalt terraces, geophysical studies have detected deeper structures inside the hill, keeping the entire site under active scientific investigation. On the island of Crete, in Greece, Knossos Palace was built around 2000 BC and served as the political center of the Minoan civilization, becoming one of the earliest large palace complexes in Europe. The complex covers about 215,000 square feet, nearly equal to 3 standard soccer fields placed side by side, allowing hundreds of people to live and manage economic activities within one organized space. More than 1,000 connected rooms create a complex layout, and this structure likely inspired the ancient Greek myth of the labyrinth and the creature known as the Minotaur. Large storage areas once held hundreds of clay jars nearly 6 feet tall for olive oil and grain, proving the palace functioned as a centralized economic hub rather than only a royal residence. Around 1400 BC, a powerful earthquake contributed to the decline of the palace, showing how natural forces could directly affect the stability of an advanced civilization. In 1900, archaeologist Arthur Evans began excavating and reconstructing the site, a decision that revived its appearance, but also sparked debate about how much modern restoration is acceptable. What makes Caral in Peru recognized as one of the oldest cities in the Americas? The answer lies in its age of about 5,000 years, dating to the same era as the Egyptian pyramids and reshaping regional history. The pyramids rise nearly 100 feet high and were built with stone and fiber bags filled with rocks, a design that helped reduce earthquake damage without metal tools. The archaeological zone covers about 150 acres, with 6 large pyramids, proving it functioned as a major ceremonial and administrative center in a dry landscape. No large weapons storage or defensive walls were found, showing that Corral developed through trade and ritual activities rather than organized warfare. The city began around 3000 BC and was confirmed by radiocarbon dating in the late 20th century, forcing scholars to rethink the timeline of American civilization. Today, Corral is recognized as the earliest known civilization center in the Americas and stands as proof of complex social organization in ancient times. Have you ever heard about Nan Madol in Micronesia, an ancient stone city rising from the ocean where massive basalt walls stand like a forgotten fortress from another era? Moving by small boat through narrow water passages between the walls feels like entering a stone labyrinth, where dark basalt columns stack together like giant logs from an ancient construction. The ruins spread across about 200 acres and include nearly 100 artificial islands, forming a stone city resting directly on a coral foundation in the ocean. The walls were built using long volcanic basalt columns weighing many tons, arranged horizontally like massive beams to create thick and stable stone structures. Archaeological estimates suggest the builders used more than 700,000 tons of stone, a construction scale rarely seen even in many powerful ancient civilizations. In the middle of the vast ocean, those silent basalt walls still stand above the water like the remaining traces of a lost stone city that once existed and slowly faded from history. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Bosnian pyramids include a hill about 720 feet tall, whose four slopes appear unusually symmetrical and resemble the shape of a giant pyramid. Approaching the base of the hill reveals broad faces that rise toward the summit, giving the landscape the appearance of a large geometric structure covered with forest. Geological surveys have identified flat stone layers beneath the soil, with surfaces measuring several square feet, forming solid bands along the hillside. Some geologists explain that these stone layers likely formed through natural sediment compression over very long geological periods. Excavations that began in 2005 also revealed underground passages stretching for hundreds of feet beneath the hill. Inside these passages, narrow corridors supported by stacked stones create a complex underground network hidden beneath the Bosnian Pyramids landscape. Let us explore what lies beneath the waters of Emigrant Lake in the state of Oregon, in the United States, where an ancient valley once held traces of human life from thousands of years ago. According to research, beneath the thick mud, there are many ancient sediment layers that record human activity and environmental changes over many millennia. During rare periods when the lake becomes very low, archaeologists have discovered stone tools, pottery fragments, and ancient living areas showing that early communities once lived here seasonally. Some sediment layers beneath the lake are thicker than 100 feet, containing important geological information that helps scientists rebuild the environmental history of this ancient landscape. When the water level drops deeply, the lake bed covering about 800 acres reveals old earth terraces and stone foundations that make the landscape look like the ruins of a buried city. If one day you fly across the desert of Utah in the United States and look down at potash ponds, the giant geometric blue pools may make you think of the remains of a mysterious ancient construction. Looking from above, the evaporation ponds form huge square shapes covering about 300 acres, an area close to the size of 200 football fields placed side by side. The bright electric blue color of the ponds has made many people who first saw satellite images believe they were looking at the traces of a massive structure designed by an ancient civilization. The ponds are divided into rectangular sections by long, straight earth barriers, making the entire area resemble the buried foundations of an enormous ancient city under layers of salt. Some ponds reach a depth of about 10 feet, where salt-rich water slowly evaporates and leaves thick mineral layers forming across the bottom. This unusual combination of unreal colors and giant geometric shapes has made potash ponds one of the most visually striking industrial landscapes in Utah. At Owl Creek Pass in Colorado, enormous cliffs look like ancient fortress walls, making many people wonder whether nature or a lost civilization once created these massive stone formations. The rock layers are stacked like giant steps that resemble the foundation of an ancient fortress, which led some explorers in the early 20th century to suspect the remains of an old structure. Some vertical cliffs rise almost 1,000 feet high, forming what appears to be a colossal stone wall that has sparked debate about possible ancient human involvement. Certain rock surfaces are so wide and flat that geological survey teams repeatedly measured them to confirm that they formed naturally rather than by human tools. Several stone blocks, longer than 50 feet, lie stacked in unusual positions, looking like the enormous building stones of a destroyed ancient temple. Because many rock shapes resemble walls, steps, and columns, Owl Creek Pass has become famous as a natural landscape that looks like the mysterious ruins of an ancient monument. Could the giant cliff of Rattlesnake Ledge in Washington be only a natural landform, or the hidden remains of an ancient structure buried by nature for thousands of years? Huge stone blocks resting on the top of the cliff have wide, flat surfaces, which once led some researchers to suspect they might have served as an ancient sky observation platform. The rock layers here formed about 50 million years ago, after powerful tectonic forces lifted the land upward and created massive stone walls. Many enormous stones, weighing hundreds of tons, sit close to the edge of the cliff, as if they were placed there with intention, creating a scene that resembles the ruins of a lost monument. The main cliff of Rattlesnake Ledge rises about 1,600 feet high, forming a wide rock platform that projects outward like a giant stone balcony above the valley. Even today, scientists continue to debate whether these flat rock surfaces and strange stone arrangements are only ancient geology or the remains of a mysterious ancient structure. Where does the idea come from that Rosario Beach in the United States is often compared to the ruins of an ancient stone city, even though geologists say the entire landscape is a natural formation that only looks mysterious? On the rugged shoreline, many flat and angular rock cliffs create the impression of massive ancient fortress walls slowly sinking into the ocean. Geological studies show that many rock layers at Rosario Beach formed about 50 million years ago, making them far older than most ancient structures ever built by humans. Many large rocks have wide, flat surfaces and straight parallel cracks, which once forced survey teams to measure them repeatedly to confirm that people did not shape them. Some stone blocks, longer than 50 feet, lie stacked along clear, flat plains, looking like enormous building stones from a collapsed ancient fortress. The combination of giant rocks, straight fractures, and broad stone surfaces has made Rosario Beach one of the rare coastlines in the world that is often mistaken for ancient ruins. Keystone Canyon in Alaska opens into a massive rock canyon where towering cliff walls rise like the ancient fortress walls of a mysterious structure shaped by the forces of the earth. Many layers of rock here formed more than 200 million years ago, and later glaciers crushed, cut, and polished them into enormous vertical stone walls. Scientists explain that the long grooves on the cliffs of Keystone Canyon were carved during ancient ice ages when large rocks were dragged beneath moving glaciers and scraped across the stone surface. These long, parallel marks on the canyon walls show how heavy stones were pulled along under the glacier as the ice slowly moved through this landscape. Huge rock blocks scattered across the canyon floor resemble the ruins of a collapsed structure, leading scientists to study the deep geological history of this dramatic place. Today, Keystone Canyon is considered a giant geological record, where each layer of exposed rock reveals the story of powerful natural forces that shape the Earth. Wulingyuan Scenic Area in Hunan Province. China raises a strange question: whether this landscape is natural mountains or the gigantic remains of ancient stone towers built by a lost civilization. The entire region covers more than 100 square miles and contains over 3,000 vertical stone pillars that look like thousands of massive towers filling the valleys. Many of these pillars rise about 660 feet high, similar to a building of more than 60 floors, making visitors feel like they are standing inside an enormous stone city. What amazes scientists is that these pillars are narrow like watchtowers, yet they have remained standing for millions of years, almost like giant structures carefully engineered. When geologists first studied the natural stone bridges and deep caves across the landscape, they realized the terrain looked like a gigantic architectural labyrinth. Because of this appearance, Wulingyuan is often described as a vast ancient monument created by nature itself, where geology formed structures so dramatic that the history of Earth feels almost unbelievable. Next, visit Singidibamaraha in western Madagascar, where millions of sharp stone towers rise like the ruins of a giant ancient city buried by time. The limestone spikes here reach nearly 330 feet and stand tightly together, forming a dense stone maze that makes the entire landscape look like a massive fortress swallowed by time. When the first European explorers recorded this place, they described the landscape as a petrified ancient city with deep stone corridors and walls as sharp as blades. The limestone ground here formed under the sea about 200 million years ago, and over time, water slowly dissolved it into millions of tall stone towers. Many stone cracks are so deep and narrow that they resemble hidden passageways inside an ancient fortress, leading scientists to compare the whole area to a gigantic natural structure. Modern surveys using satellite images and geological exploration changed scientific understanding when the entire stone maze was recognized as one of the rarest geological wonders on Earth. On the mountain slopes of the Philippines lies the Moai rice terraces, where ancient farmers transformed entire hillsides into long stepped fields carved directly into the mountains. Some terraces are located around 5,000 feet above sea level, creating a rare environment where rice cultivation exists on steep mountain terrain. The terraces survive through narrow irrigation channels that guide water from higher ground and distribute it gradually across each farming level. These terraces have existed for about 2,000 years and were originally built using simple hand tools, yet they remain active farming fields today. Walking along the narrow terrace walls, visitors can watch layers of rice fields descending across the mountainside like broad green waves arranged in rows. If every terrace wall were connected into a single line, the total distance could extend beyond 10,000 miles, forming one of the largest agricultural landscapes created by humans. Across the sea between India and Sri Lanka lies Adam's Bridge Ram Setu, where from above the ocean reveals a curved chain of sandbanks stretching across the water. From aircraft, observers often notice pale sandbars bending across the sea surface, forming a long arc that links two marine regions. Geological surveys show that several sections of this sea are only about 3 to 10 feet deep, allowing the sandbanks under the water to remain visible. Sediment studies also report coral structures in the area that are several thousand years old, suggesting the shoal chain formed through long accumulation. When viewed slowly from small boats, the sandbars and limestone ridges appear connected beneath the water, making the sea resemble a natural path. The longer one studies the line of shoals, the more the ocean seems to reveal an ancient road beneath the surface where layers of sand and stone align. Amethyst Lake in the Uinta Mountains of Utah has puzzled many scientists because the lake sits inside a giant rock basin that looks like an ancient stone arena. The lake stands at nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, surrounded by steep granite walls that make the landscape resemble a massive structure built by an unknown ancient civilization. When geologists explored the area, they discovered long grooves carved across the rock surface around the lake that resemble enormous cuts made by powerful tools. These rock grooves are actually traces left by ancient glaciers that once crushed the stone and carved the basin into a shape similar to a giant amphitheater. Geological studies show that the granite surrounding Amethyst Lake formed more than 1 billion years ago, long before humans ever appeared on Earth. Because of this, many scientists see Amethyst Lake as a vast geological monument, quietly preserving the deep ancient history of our planet. On the Tibetan Plateau of China, Mount Kailash rises about 22,000 feet, and its pyramid-like shape allows the mountain to be recognized from many miles away. Layers of sedimentary rock were compressed and uplifted over tens of millions of years, which created steep cliffs marked by long vertical lines running from the summit to the base. Some sections of the walking route around the mountain reach nearly 18,500 feet, which forces travelers to move in very thin air conditions. The path that circles Mount Kailash extends for about 32 miles and runs across terrain with an average elevation above 15,000 feet. The surrounding landscape is dominated by rock and ice, which makes the entire mountain appear like a massive stone structure rising from the plateau. Even though the peak rises above 22,000 feet, it remains one of the very few major mountains in the world without a confirmed climbing record. In the deep waters of Tubataha Reefs Natural Park in the Philippines, are humans looking at the remains of an ancient city slowly built by the ocean over thousands of years. The entire coral reef structure covers about 240,000 acres, like the foundation of a massive monument slowly constructed by countless tiny marine organisms. Scientists have observed steep coral walls and natural underwater corridors that make divers feel as if they are exploring the defensive walls of a sunken civilization. Deep limestone layers beneath the reef show that this vast coral structure has been forming continuously for about 10,000 years, like an ancient monument built layer by layer across generations. During scientific surveys, huge coral formations were discovered arranged in large circular patterns, raising new questions about the unusual natural processes that shaped them. Every coral pillar and living reef wall here stands like a monument of the ocean, preserving ancient geological and biological history that scientists are still trying to understand.